Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Record of attendance, Linda. Declarations of conflict of interest. Approval of agenda, any additions or deletions? So moved by Deputy Mayor. Can I have a seconder? Second by Madeline. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Approval of agenda. Council priorities. Yes, great. We have a presentation. This is awesome. Yeah, kill the lights and then, is it this? Oh, it's upside down. And I can't get, just so you know, probably because that's in the way, but.
Yeah. What are you trying to do?
I was doing this.
Well, check on the screen.
I was thinking the screen should go up, shouldn't it? Well, that's just perfect. Thank you.
File's not opening here, so just be a second. Sorry. Try something else.
Any paper clips over there? Might only need one.
What building? Somebody from away. Yeah, they're gonna open a business. Yeah, that's good. No, professional. Closing September 1st, so. I don't have a check yet, so. It's sold, but not 100%.
I set this all up before lunch, so it'd be ready.
Yeah, he'll be here. He's just doing a sports talk at over across the street.
Is it still going to take another half a minute?
Half a minute, yeah, probably. There it is.
Oh, no.
Okay. We'll go with this. Tell me if the screen changes, because I'm not seeing on the same on this screen as what you're seeing up there. Yeah, okay, good. All right, Your Worship, what I want to talk about, and you all have a copy of the presentation and the request for decision, is the One Nova Scotia Commission report and how it relates to the town of Yarmouth. This got on my radar a little while ago in the context of economic development and sort of what our goals should be in our priorities. And when I looked at the Ivony report initially, I was looking for the words town and municipality and those sorts of things in the report that sort of related to what our role was in terms of the One Nova Scotia report. When I went back to it, I had a different approach, and the different approach was to step back and say, if these are the strategies, and the strategies, we'll go through them here in a minute, and the goals of the Ivony report, then we all have to embrace all of the goals and all of the strategies if we're going to be successful. And I think that was kind of the concept of the One Nova Scotia. It isn't 50 municipalities, a dozen government departments, all setting their own strategies in their own directions and hoping we land in the right place, but it's One Nova Scotia and a coordinated, concerted effort that's needed in order to be successful. So the report was released in February 2014. There's been much discussion about it since, perhaps not enough. And that actually coincided with when Town Council set our priorities. It was right about the same time. I picked a few quotes that I included in the presentation that you all have from the Ivony report, and the first one is on the screen right now, and it is a core should be on the screen. Yes, it is. Core message, and it talks about the fact that we are at the early stages of what may be a prolonged period of accelerating population loss and economic decline. And that is the message in the One Nova Scotia report when they looked at our demographics and our economic situation. But they also said, and this is equally important, and this one quote gathers all the message, it is that the negative prospects are not inevitable or irreversible. And that is the hope message in the Ivony report, is that as bad as things appear to be and the negative direction that our population and our economic prospects seem to be trending in, that we have all of the assets and all of the opportunity to change that future, to change the trend, but it won't be easy. And it will take that coordinated collective effort. So it goes on, and this is a quote that talks about some of the things we can do. Now, we aren't as a province, we aren't a nation, we aren't a sovereign nation, we don't have all the levers to pull that a country has, but we do have some things that we can do. And it names some specific things, and first of all, our attitudes and relationships, our governance structures and resources, our decision-making in pursuit of economic growth. These are things that we can change, that are certainly within our authority, within the province and within the town to be able to affect. I included this quote about attitude because to me this one gives me hope every time I read it. And if I can read it now, put my glasses on. It says, if in the depths of the Great Recession in 2008, someone had predicted that by 2013, 2 young Cape Bretoners would have sold their software product to a California company for $70 million, that a local shipyard would have won a $25 billion contract, that Nova Scotia vineyards would have increased production by 50%, and that the province would be home of the world's largest processors of seafood and of blueberries, and that the proportion of out-of-province university students would be studying in Nova Scotia, a higher proportion, than in any other province, and that Inverness would be the 42nd best golf course in the world, would most Nova Scotians have believed them? Quite possibly not. But fortunately, the people who made all those things happen did not think that way.
Yes, sir.
And that's the point, is that it's how you think and how you view the future. And whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, whether you're willing to change, take risk, can determine where you go. And finally, and I'll move on, is this quote about urban centers, because that's an important point within the Ivony report, and I think it should resonate with towns, and particularly the town of Yarmouth as a regional center. It says these are not arguments to abandon rural regions, so it had been talking about Halifax and so on, and move everything to Halifax and Sydney. The key point is that a small province or region needs a few dynamic urban centers to consolidate the elements essential to growth and innovation across its whole economy. And so Yarmouth, as the regional center, obviously is, I think it's obvious, I think we're positioned with a real opportunity to be even more of a center, to be a leader and an important part in the economic future of the province. So within the Ivony report, the One Nova Scotia report, it talks about strategic directions. And the strategic directions are also referred to as game changers. And they're the strategies necessary in order to attain the goals of the Ivony report. And so the question I had when I looked at this is, how does this compare to the priorities of the town of Yarmouth? And so I did a little exercise where I sort of tried to tell how much alignment there was, and I was frankly a little surprised at how well they did align. I thought that the Ivony strategic directions were a little sharper, a little more focused than our 4 priorities, but I was able to easily move each of the Ivony strategic directions under one of the 4 priorities of the town of Yarmouth. And so that gave me kind of a good feeling that I don't think we're on the wrong track at all, and that in fact aligning ourselves with the Ivony report is not a huge leap. There are 19 stretch goals for the province within the Ivony report, and they are goals that will not be easily achieved by the province as a whole, not the province, the government. But they can be achieved. They need to be achieved if we're going to change our future. And so I've asked Natalie to look at those goals and to figure out what our piece is of each of those goals. So on a goal like immigration, where I think it talks about bringing 1,000 net new immigrants to the province each year, what is Yarmouth's part of that? You know, figured out based on population. So if it's 1,000 for the province, how many is that for Yarmouth? And it's not a small number. And so that's why it's a stretch goal, is because it is very different than the reality we have today. And so what can we do, what should we do to try and help us achieve that level of success within 10 years? And Natalie will report back to us on that. She's also working with Angelique at the REN to look at those same questions on a regional level, because we need to work collectively with other municipalities and everybody in the region to achieve the goals. And it's no good if we just do it and ignore our partners. So what would I ask you to consider? I would ask you to consider adopting the One Nova Scotia Game Changers or strategic directions as the town priorities. The reason I would ask you to do that is because it makes it crystal clear to our citizens, to our partners, to the province, that we are in line with the goals of the Ivony report, that we are committed to success of our province and our region economically, and that we will be good partners in seeing these things through. I want to identify our piece of the stretch goals and hold them up and report to you on how our community is doing in terms of achieving those goals over the next 10 years. And all that to say, it is really accepting our role. It is accepting our role and our responsibility and showing a little bit of, I would say, leadership, frankly, in terms of municipal units. I don't know if any other municipality has adopted, taken aboard the recommendations of the Ivony report. We hear lots of talk, and we go to workshops at UNSM and so on, and we talk about it. But I don't know that any municipality has embraced the strategic directions or the goals in a way that they hold it up in front and say, this is what we're about, and that we're committed to success. So that's what I'd ask you to consider.
Excellent, by the way, excellent. Yeah. Deputy?
So I'm all for it, Jeff. Let's roll. What are you looking for, a motion from us to proceed?
Well, I'd ask you to consider it, and if you deem it appropriate, and then it would be a motion to recommend to council that we adopt as our priorities the strategic directions of the One Nova Scotia report.
So I'll make that a motion, Linda. I just think it'd be a lot easier to work with the province on that basis. And
Well, yeah, not only that, once we do it, I think it will encourage the other municipal units to focus that way. Sandy?
I'll second that motion.
Yep, good. Councillor Dodds? Good? Nope. Okay. All right, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Excellent. Okay, now I need to keep track of. Okay, so anything else on council priorities? That just about covers our, good job, excellent job. Staff report, CAO report. So we had this. This is a separate one. Any questions for the CAO on his report? Oh, sorry, go ahead. CAO.
Your Worship, I was just going to say that it was sent out yesterday by email, and I understand that, excuse me, at least some people had difficulty opening it. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody not read it that needs a copy? You good? It's okay. Do you want a copy? Oh, okay, good. Yep. All right, nothing for the CAO? Fire department report? Any questions for the chief? How's it going out there? Good? Good? Excellent. Planning department report? Caroline?
Yeah, so I have a couple items here. So maybe we can talk about the planning department report first. We've been busy upstairs. I did include the Heritage Incentive Program materials because council hasn't seen those yet as part of my report. So if you have any questions about that, that was mailed out to all municipally registered heritage property owners the last few weeks, and we're hoping to get some applications in to be part of that program.
Hey, did you, I'm sorry, I don't know if your microphone's on. Did you say you had applications?
It should be on. I sent
there it is.
out the materials, so the application form and a letter to all of the property owners.
Oh, okay.
And I've received one so far, but the due date for it is the end of July. So
Excellent.
I'm hoping we'll get a few more. I
That's
just
the-
wanted council to see what had been
Yeah.
distributed, so I included that as part of my report.
Okay, that's the $10,000, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
yep.
Good, good, okay. Any questions for Caroline? Might be more as we go through, but,
I think it's been almost 2 weeks now. Yeah, so.
I can't hear. Okay, go ahead.
That's a good question. Are you as a counselor permitted to apply for the program?
So
I asked a question.
Heritage.
For the heritage applications, are anyone sitting on council that has a heritage property, are they allowed to apply?
Talking not loud enough stuff.
Yeah, I think if they applied, they just couldn't participate in the voting. I don't see why they couldn't apply for it, though.
Just maybe to put a little meat there, the Provincial Award Program, which is significantly larger, we have $250,000 we give out, is open to all heritage property owners and members of our committee and can apply. Personally, I don't see a problem with the only difficulty. The process is, and Caroline helped me on this one, but these applications come to Caroline. They will then go to the Heritage Committee, where they'll be vetted by the Heritage Committee and recommended to council. So I would assume it's no different than anything else. If a councillor has a heritage home and wishes to apply for this grant and wants to remove themselves from the discussion and from the table, they should have every right to apply. I don't think there's anything in our bylaws that restrict that. I mean, it's not going to be a conflict as long as they're not involved with the discussion.
He's looking. Are you looking?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. They just, if they make an application, they couldn't participate in the decision-making. They'd have to declare a conflict of interest at that time, but it wouldn't prevent them from applying, no.
You shouldn't, I just think you shouldn't lose out because you've got a heritage property and you're sitting here. It's, yeah, I mean, not that that says that in the MGA, but. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's right.
Sandy, that answers. Any more? She did, it was. Caroline repeated it. Oh, do you want to say that?
Yeah, no, if there's nothing that I see.
Put your microphone. That's the thing, so it's taped.
My voice loud.
Oh, I know you, yeah, good, go ahead.
No, there's nothing that would prevent a counselor from applying for the program. If a counselor did, then they'd have to declare, or they should declare a conflict of interest on the vote when it comes to determining eligibility or whether the grant's going to be made to that person or any person for that matter.
Good.
Clear?
Okay, MMM Group. Did you
So
want to
this is just an update from the consulting company that has been engaged to help us with our municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw review. So it's just, I'd like to welcome any questions or comments from council on how they're doing so far and what you think.
Good. I love On the Edge of a New Plan. That's
fun,
I'd
eh?
really love to see that. And I guess I didn't know Appendix B, what would I like to see? Everything's so widespread, it was kind of hard to,
That was the grade 6 class that
Okay.
stuck the stickies,
Okay, good.
so it was
Yeah.
kind of more a fun
it was really,
exercise.
it's really neat though, all the things that they put in there. Any more questions on that one? Proposed amendments to the Liquor Control Act? Caroline?
So this is a discussion piece I did up as a result of the last council meeting. Council asked that I put something in writing about how these amendments may affect us from a planning perspective. The town's already regulating land uses that sell or offer alcohol, like bars and tavern uses through our land use bylaw. So even with these amendments to open up the community, the communities within Nova Scotia to make them all wet or able to serve alcohol, it won't have any impact within the town of Yarmouth, as we're already regulating this through planning and already a wet zone. For the second amendment that was recommended, currently restaurant uses, if someone orders a drink, they have to order food as well. So this change would allow them to have 2 drinks before they would be required to order food. Right now, the town does regulate tavern uses, which are uses that are allowed to order alcohol without food. And we regulate them. We only have certain areas where we permit them, and we do that through development agreement in some other places. Restaurants are as a right in a number of areas. So this change will allow more alcohol consumption in those areas, but I don't think it'll have a huge impact on the town. My recommendation is to support the proposed amendments to the Liquor Control Act. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and if we do need to see some changes, if these amendments are accepted in our land use in the future, then we can talk about that then, but
Good.
yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion the town of Yarmouth support the proposed amendments to the Liquor Control Act.
Councillor,
Second that.
go ahead. Oh,
I'll second that motion.
moved and seconded, discussion? Question's been called, all those in favor? Aye, contrary, motion carried. Good, anything else for Caroline?
Yep, but it's later on in the agenda, so
Okay.
you can come back to me.
Thank you. Operational Services Report, so he's away, okay, on vacation. Finance Department, Jerry?
Just a quick update. Pat and I continue to work on our year-end. Auditors will be here Monday, so you'll see a few extra bodies around the office next week. As far as this year's reports go, I did print them off. We have some work to do to get them finalized, but a couple points I should mention, or I will mention to you, is our organic revenue is up a little bit. As you know, we've taken on a little more customers, and things have changed over the last year or so with where organics are coming. Like we're getting organics from Shelburne area and that kind of stuff now. We also got a one-time, I guess, benefit on the D-transfer tax this spring. So in our first 3 months, we've collected about $60,000 more than anticipated in D-transfer tax. And a little good news with the high school is because of the way the formula works for our fire protection grant, the new high school is included where the old high schools and schools weren't. So we collect about $14,000 or $15,000 as a grant from the province on fire protection for that now. So a little bit of extra money coming in the first quarter of the current year.
Last thing about the high school.
The high school, where it's owned by the province, it falls under the fire protection grant that we receive from the province. So in the calculation, we're now getting an extra, I think it was 14.5 or close to 15,000 in a fire protection grant from the province.
Okay.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Is that just a one-time?
That's an
grant, or
annual
is that an
grant that we
annual?
get. So for different buildings owned by the province throughout the town, they give us a fire protection grant to help in that area. So the old schools were owned technically by the town, where this new school is owned by the province, so they pay us a grant for it.
Good news for us. Thank you. Now, do we know how many years into the future do you suspect we can look forward to that?
That'll be an annual thing. As long as the school's there, they'll be paying the fire protection grant.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Any questions for Jerry? Thanks, Jerry. Yarmouth Recreation? Frank? Not recreating, okay. Economic Development Report, that was here. Any questions for Natalie? Or Natalie, did you have anything to share besides what's here?
No.
Okay,
There is an attachment with an update from the Facade Society as well, that's in the back.
part of this, yes.
Just showed you a couple of before and after pictures of the two businesses that have received checks as of this week.
Yeah, nice. Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, so reading that report on the facade, are things going according to your schedule? So it looks to me summer's almost half over, and I remember us reporting that we had, I forget the number, a fair number of people who were going to be involved. I'm just wondering what, in the language, what is meant by 13 applications pending. Does that mean they haven't been approved or they haven't done their project yet?
They haven't provided us with the applications, so we know that they are coming. The group, and Gil is here as well, I've been actually working with the businesses one-on-one, and some of the challenges that they're going, or that they're facing is, one, getting the contractors to come and provide multiple quotes, and the other one is actually getting the contractors to come and do the work, because there are fewer contractors available to do second story, because they have to do the scaffolding. So some of the work has started without the official application coming in, so you'll see more work happening than the applications that have approved. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see things kind of ramping up in August, September. We're going to start to get probably the majority of them in. And we are, through the society, working with the different businesses, letting them know that there is a deadline, and it's October 31st, and trying to encourage them to make haste, Sandy, to make haste.
Yeah. I think a concern that I had, and I talked this over with Caroline privately, and personally I think we made a mistake with the Heritage Grant Program. Given the limited number of contractors in this community, they're very busy. Reality check. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of them don't need the work. They have got enough work to keep going. And I'm just trying to get a feel, and it was something, and I stupidly, and I apologize for that, just let it go by, and I should have questioned it. Why is it necessary to have somebody, and this came up at our Provincial Heritage Advisory Board as well, we only request one contractor's quote, because the concern we have on the provincial level was that it's between the property owner and the contractor who does the work. Why are we requiring, and this was talking to the provincial board, why are we requiring multiple quotes? And we cut out that process. We're simply doing one quote. I mean, if you have Honest Al's Painting who wants to do the work, that's fine by us, you know, as long as it's a company that's reputable, et cetera. And I'm trying to wrap my head, maybe CAO or Natalie or Gil can help me with this. Why is it that we're requiring these multiple quotes? Because I've been hearing this is one of the problems that the private businesses are having, because they can't get people to give the quotes, because they don't want to waste the time giving the quotes, because they know they don't have time to do the job anyway. Whereas you may have some people who may have. And I'm wondering can we do something to clean that up a little bit? Or because I think that's part of our problem. And I don't personally see the necessity for multiple quotes.
Gil, if you want to come up
Yeah.
too, but Natalie, I know one of you can, between the two of you.
Just for the record, you're bang on, Ken. That's exactly the problem that we've faced. So what we've done now is we've got a real good idea what a fair quote would be. So long as they have one contractor supply a quote, and we look at it and we kind of take a look at it and say, well, is it a fair quote? The whole reason behind two quotes, just to make sure that nobody was gouging, because it was. There's always that rumor out there that, well, it's a grant program, so you doubled the price because you're getting half the money back.
Right.
So we're trying to avoid that situation. But given the fact that there's not too many contractors, as you say, that are willing to do the work, we are accepting one quote, as long as that quote's deemed to be fair. And I have the same issue at my house. I have had 3 contracts that were awarded like a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I'm still waiting for them to show up. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so do we have to, now I'm just going back to memory, did we have that as a policy of the society? Is that a societal thing? Is there a policy in there that you can change? Do we have to change it? Is there any dotting the i's and crossing? It's not up to us. You guys can handle that, no problem. Wonderful.
Yeah, no, I think that we could do that internally.
Good. I think that's great, because, let's try to clean that up. Perfect. Thanks, Gil.
And Gil, thanks for, I know you're going building to building. I get a lot of good reports about that, because people sometimes need to be encouraged.
Yeah,
And
actually,
it's making a big difference.
Working very, very well. I was just on the phone with another individual before the meeting started who wants to make application as well. So the word is getting out and the program is expanding.
Excellent. Thank you. Caroline? Sorry, I didn't have your hand.
I just have a quick question along that line of thought. So Ken and I were talking about the Municipal Heritage Program and about the 2 quotes. And I've been telling people to try and get 2 quotes, but if they can't, there's nothing to say that we would reject based on one, even though that's in the policy that we would ask for two. Is that acceptable to proceed that way as well? I don't know if this were different because it was a policy adopted.
So is that ours? That's our decision to make, right? Okay. Okay. So yeah, I don't see a problem with it. You want to go ahead, Counselor? Madeline,
Yes?
you got your
Oh.
light on.
Thank you. So, help me out with this, please, so that I understand. Is the problem that many of the business owners are having, that's holding them up, is the fact that they can only get one quote, if at all, because our painters out there are too busy?
Well,
Is
we
that-
are,
is that
as
what-
as
is that
Gil,
what's holding
it was
the
in the
process up?
past, as Gil has just mentioned, because the society members are actually going to speak to the businesses one-on-one, we're actually reviewing with them and saying, okay, you've got one legitimate quote, please complete your application. I think the other part is just lessons learned as we go through the process, is that the application package is quite complex. What we ask for is basic information. We ask to prove ownership or to have a landlord provide proof of ownership. We also ask to provide before photos, the quotes, and then that gets you to your submission review. And then after that, we ask that you provide the actual invoice paid and the after photos. So part of what the society is reviewing is how can we make it easier in the future? Should we move to a phase 2 to make it easier for the business? And the other part of it is that businesses, especially if they're owner-operators, compiling information is maybe not of the highest priority. So we're trying to work with them as best as we can to get the packages in.
Good? Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you. Just back to the Heritage Program. Take a look at the wording of the policy. If it is soft enough that we would like to see 2 quotes, then that's fine. Otherwise, we should change it. But if council's of the understanding of the situation today, then I wouldn't hold anything up. I would move forward with the 1 quote and leave it to the committee to gauge the reasonableness of the quote. And if there's any issues, deal with it at that level before the recommendation comes forward.
There's nothing in the policy, if I can recall, that the policy, as Jeff said, is soft. However, it is written in there, the requirement for the 2 quotes. And therefore, I'd like to make a motion and that we amend the Heritage Grant Program to delete the word 2 quotes and replace it with 1 quote.
Can I have a seconder, please? Oh, sorry. I can't hear and I can't see. Okay, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Call for the question. Help me, people. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, that's a help. Good?
I'm okay?
Yeah. Anything else for Natalie? We good? Thanks, Nat. Economic Development, Gil. Okay. Yep, you can come up, but you got your microphone on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so are you going to make a report, Gil, or you're going to make a report?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Actually, Jeff asked me to be here today. He thought that it might be wise for me to give an update on the heat recovery project, which is proposed for the Mariner Center. You may recall that originally the funding was, I believe, set aside almost 2 years ago. There was an amount between the 2 councils, I believe, in the area of $400,000. At that time, that was the projected cost to install a high-stage heat pump, which would have reduced our dependency significantly on fossil fuels. So, in other words, our furnace oil prices would have, or our dependence on furnace oil would have been significantly reduced. At that time, you know, we were tossing around the figure that was an estimated cost that was provided by one of the providers, and they thought $400,000 was basically the scope of the project. Just to bring you up to speed on what happened in the interim is that we've suddenly started getting different scenarios proposed to us, and we were presented with 2 or 3 different types of options, I guess. One to be, you know, was to use geothermal storage and go that route and change over all of our high-grade heaters to a low-grade heating system. So that would have been a significant departure from the high-stage heat pump. Another was to put an inline heat pump, which would have, I guess, changed the water in the beans as well. But at the end of the day, there were 3 or 4 different options that were being suggested. We then engaged an engineer, an engineering firm, to, I guess, lead us through the process and tell us which was the best one to use. And that exercise failed miserably, and that's the only way to describe it. Basically, we didn't end up with the results that we had hoped for, and I was unable to make a recommendation to the board on which way to proceed. So we went back to the drawing board and said, okay, we need to really revisit this. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. We've engaged IB Story out of Charlottetown, and IB Story was the ones in 2010 that did the energy audit for the Mariners Center. So it seemed like a natural extension of that to get them back in to say, okay, how can we now look at some fuel savings here? So IB Story was engaged. They did a high-stage heat pump refrigeration system feasibility study, which I have here in front of me. It's fairly detailed, and basically it presents 3 options. Those 3 options are the original refrigeration plant, which was a control optimization and a high-stage heat pump. So that was just the basic heat pump installation. And the project cost at that time was, on this, is estimated to be about $450,000. Option B would have been an enhanced heat pump system with load shifting. So basically what it would be during the peak times when the ice plant was running full speed, you'd be storing some heat, and then during the times when when you were calling for heat but the ice plant wasn't operating, that heat would be available. So it'd be a further reduction on your dependence for the boiler system and for the furnace well. And then there was option C, which was an additional component as well. Option C was a complete building maintenance system control replacement. And the building is almost 15 years old. The technology that runs the building is also 15 years old, or probably actually more than that. The technology was probably a little dated when it was installed. So this would be a complete overhaul of the building up maintenance system, and it would allow for things such as, you know, downtime, late night sort of optimizing when the air handling systems and things are going to shut on, turn on and turn off. So the building would be completely computer controlled, and we could remote access it to monitor things, that type of thing. So the additional cost for that, of course, the option B took the project to $550. Option C took it to an additional $150,000 on top of that. So you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of $700,000. I then received, so being a little bit nervous about costing, I went back to IB Story and said, okay, have you included everything? Are the engineering costs included? Is there a contingency built in? So they came back with some revised pricing, which was a little scary because it took the total project, if the one that I quoted at around $700,000 to about $856. I have had conversation with them today. I just got this memo this morning. I've had conversation with their engineer who's in Ontario right now, and he said there's about a $75,000 contingency built in there that they really don't, they recommend it, but they don't think they're going to need it. They've actually just gone through this process with Sydney, So they've pretty much ironed out all the wrinkles. One of the biggest wrinkles, of course, was the tie-ins for the ice plant, and the way that it was typically done by Simcoe and their competitors. IB Story has a newer, better, faster way of doing it, which is more efficient. But originally, I guess, we'll go back to the original quote back 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, when it was $400,000, and the price of oil was significantly higher than it is today. I think almost 30% higher from October of 2013 to today. So, of course, with 30% drop in oil prices, there's been a 30% increase in the payback time, the corresponding payback time. If, in fact, oil prices go back up, and I think everybody expects that that will happen eventually, as the oil prices rise, of course, the payback time would drop correspondingly. So right now, if we look at and I just received this from, there's 2 ways of looking at this, I guess. If you went with the costing, which includes the contingencies, you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of an 11-year, sorry?
From where? From where? Okay, so you said if you went with, and you named one.
Okay. If we went with the proposal that I received this morning with the contingency built in, you're looking at a payback time in the vicinity of 11 plus years. If you look at it with the contingency removed, then it reduces to about 8 years. You also have to consider, as I said, that if the price of oil goes up, that will correspondingly reduce the payback time. And I think the other thing that we have to be considerate of is the environmental aspect. I don't think I may have those figures here somewhere, but I think if you do the full meal deal, you're looking at the equivalent of taking about 300 cars off the road. So your carbon footprint would be reduced significantly, and that's something that everybody's striving for, is a greener, reduce our dependency on furnace oil and thereby reduce our carbon footprint. So that's one of the benefits that doesn't have a dollar figure attached to it, but is certainly worth considering. So anyway, I wanted to come here today to make sure that you're fully aware of the possibilities. There's 3 options. One is to stick with the basic heat recovery high-stage heat pump in the 450 range, and the other 2, of course, have a significantly higher price dollar figure attached to them, but are being recommended by IB Story as the way to go. So I don't know, Jeff just asked me to do the update. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Deputy?
Gil, you talked about the higher price that replaces some of the equipment that we use out there now to heat the plant, so that we're 15 years old now, or the technology we have is 15 years old now. So if we go with the $850,000 quote, more or less, that replaces a lot of the equipment and brings the technology current.
What it will do, I mean, you're still going to have your ice plant, your compressors, that you require to operate an ice plant. That equipment won't change. What you will do is reduce your dependence, of course, on the boiler system that we have there for the furnaces, for the hot water. You'll also reduce your requirement to have a condenser. We've got 2 condensers out there that are basically blowing hot air out into the atmosphere. And we use the condensers, of course, to cool down the ice plant, to expel the excess heat. So, and those condensers would someday need to be replaced, and I think they're around $60,000 each as well. So you're extending the lifespan of those as well. I have asked about the possibility of getting to a point where we're totally independent of the boiler system, the furnaces, or the boilers, and they said you'd have to build redundancy into the program. It would be an additional $350,000, and they do not recommend it. They do not think it's feasible. So the question has been asked. Yeah. But the $150,000 is not part and parcel of the actual physical tie-ins and that sort of thing. What that is the building control systems, and that runs everything. That runs all of your air exchangers, your dehumidification, everything.
Thank you.
And that's what needs to be modernized.
So there's an ongoing cost for the maintenance of that system, you just, or a little bit anyway.
The building maintenance system?
Yeah.
No, I think once the installation's there, that's like buying a new Apple computer. To simplify it, I mean, that's a simple way of putting it. But right now, I mean, the system that we had running our boiler system before was computerized. When it failed, and we had to spend some money last year because of the failure, the replacement of that technology wasn't available. So now, basically, we have to go back and try to go through troubleshoot to try to find out what the problem is if a problem occurs. Whereas before, that would be an instant message to your computer telling you what happened. So,
I'm just interested in the long-range aspect of it. I think if we can save money in the long run and have a better carbon footprint, then
it's in the long run. I'm guessing at present day oil pricing and tight controls over the project, you're looking at an 8-year payback. But as I said, if the price of oil goes up, that'll be reduced. But the significant reduction in your carbon footprint as well. Right now, we're burning through probably $100,000 a year or more of furnace oil.
Councillor Langell?
Thank you. Just a question to Jeff, because I've been hearing numbers flying by here, or Jerry. We have already made a commitment of X number of dollars to this project, correct? That money has been committed. But now, that was for option A, I'm assuming. Then we came into option B, and now we're seriously looking at option C, which is almost double option A. So are we anticipating going with option C, or I'm curious where we're heading with this, because that's a lot of change here.
Okay, I'll let you answer that.
Okay, so option C is more money than we anticipated initially. Now, since this project began, something has changed. We now have a third partner at Mariner Centre who would benefit from the operating cost reduction that we would enjoy through any of those options. So one of the things in our intermunicipal agreement with Argyll and the municipality of Yarmouth is if we take on a capital project, we can, on a case-by-case basis, invite the municipality of Argyll to participate as a partner. And so that is one of the reasons this is on your agenda today, is to have you, as one of the owners, request Argyll to consider participating in this capital project. It clearly will have an immediate impact on the operating costs, which they share in.
Good. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Gil, Councillor Landria is right. There were a lot of numbers that were flying around here. First, there was $700, and now these anticipated $150,000. Is that what brings it up to $850, which I also heard?
856. Yes, 856 was the number that was quoted to me this morning, which included a $75,000 contingency. And they've since revisited and said, well, they're pretty certain that they can work without the contingency, but they wanted to make sure we were aware of it. They always recommend that you put a contingency in, and I don't blame them, but they.
Wise.
Yeah.
It is wise. Now, if we go with this, how long is this going to keep us up to date?
Pardon?
How long is this going to keep us up to date?
Oh, this is, I think this is pretty much.
Before we have to revisit this again,
Yeah.
do you
I think
anticipate?
Ivy Story is recommending what's pretty much cutting edge technology here. Then they've worked out some of the glitches and some of the problems on the Sydney 200 project. This is not the first one they've done, but it's so they've already worked out some of the difficulties, and they think this will be a lot more efficient.
So, we started off with 2 partners with a $450,000 project, which would run us about $225 apiece if we were in partnership. we're moving to an 850 project, possibly divided 3 ways, which would be probably around 380,000 roughly. So it's about 140, pardon, 275? 850, 270, yeah, 275, right. So you got 275. So really the differential is not that much for us. We're looking at around 50,000 and change roughly is the differential. But we do have the long-term sustainability, which is another option which is there. So given that, I'd like to make a motion that we invite our partner Argyle to consider the option C. And Linda, you can flesh out option C. I'm not sure what that was called. That was to invite them to participate in the capital project. I agree. That'd be the motion.
Okay, can I have a seconder? Any more discussion? So, wait a second, I have a discussion, please. So that's it. Because we're gonna invite them, but we don't have to make a decision now. Because I'm gonna be honest, I can't wrap my head around all of it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, CAO.
Well, the good news is you don't entirely have to wrap your head around all that detail, because I think what Gil is saying is that if the $850,000 is available, that you're inclined to go with that option. Is that correct?
I think you would end up with a much better facility.
Right.
A much, it would be a much better technology, and yeah, I think take some pride in ownership, but also some pride in the fact that you've reduced the carbon footprint significantly.
So our role here would be to try to assemble the money, and if we're able to assemble $850,000, let the Mariner Center Board know, and they can proceed. If we aren't able to get a third partner in, then that changes the next question for this council, which is the difference between what we've agreed to and what is necessary, from 275 to perhaps 425, which is a different decision for this council. So until we ask the question of Argyle, we don't know what our number is. But we should, if we want to invite them, and I hear that we do, then we'll get on with that, and hopefully they'll make a a prompt decision one way or the other.
And just to give you an idea of the timetable, we are actually moving quite quickly on the first part of this, which is the tie-ins. The initial part of this is just to create the tie-ins to the ice plant, and the most efficient time to do that is when there's no ice in the facility. So we've got a 3-week window of opportunity each year, which is coming up starting this weekend. So I have initiated that process with Simcoe and with IB Story to have those tie-ins completed, because no matter which option you choose, those tie-ins have to be the first step you take. And we're going to get it done a lot cheaper with the ice plants not in operation. The second part of that is if we just go with option A, and it's the high stage heat pumps, of course they have to be ordered, and the delivery time on those could be as much as 6 months. So we're looking at probably a late season installation of that high stage heat pump. So you're going to look at, your savings will begin to flow immediately from that.
So you get all this? Okay, so can we have, by chance, like just a paragraph that says this is, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I can get that from Jeff. I just, the technical parts are, I just want to be able to explain why that decision, right? I agree.
Your worship, I know so much more than I ever thought I would ever know about.
And I'm not sure I want to know.
It's been a 2-year education for me as
Yeah.
well. Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. Deputy?
I only wanted to hear what Jeff, I supported Ken's motion, and I wanted to hear what Jeff had to say, and then now Gil. So I'm more comfortable knowing that we're going to proceed proactively but cautiously.
Good. Good? Did we? Yes, did we go through with that motion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Well, mine's not working, see, because I get all balled up in the details, but you can sort that out, right? Yeah. 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 Yeah, we need that. Go ahead, CAO.
So it will, this solution should all but eliminate the use of oil at Mariner Center. And I believe the annual bill, I'm looking at Jerry, is probably in the area of $80,000 a year.
Yeah, I was just checking some financials for the Merit Center. The last 4 or 5 years, we spent between 85 and 112,000 on it.
Yeah, so that'll be an annual savings if this works the way it is supposed to. Although the recommendation is to keep the boilers and everything intact as a redundancy, I think they'll sit there virtually unused, except probably burned for maintenance purposes.
Good, thanks. Okay, business? Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification, please, Jerry, that 85 to 112,000, that average in between, is that just the amount that the town has spent?
No, that's just the
That's combined.
No, that's just the Merit Center. The Merit Center buys that much oil every year.
Oh, that's just oil.
Yes.
All right. I thank you. Thank you very much.
We're trying to reduce / eliminate.
All right, thank you.
Good. Yep. Okay. Business. Town of Yarmouth, consideration to join the Chamber of Commerce. So someone can make the motion if they want. The Town of Yarmouth become an official member of the Yarmouth and Area Chamber of Commerce. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of observations. Now, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm assuming, Sandy, you're a member. Phil, I know you've got drugstore connections. You're a member, and I suspect Jim is a member. And Pam, you've got your business. I suspect you're a member. So I'm just kind of wondering. Are you a member? I didn't know whether your company was a member or not. So anyway, I didn't dare say, but I know the others that kind of says, yeah. So anyway, since we're all basic members now around the table as individual corporate members, which is nice, my question is to Mr. Barrow. If the town of Yarmouth becomes a member, could it be said, where we represent the people and the businesses of the town of Yarmouth, could it be said, or by individuals, well, the town is a member, therefore my business is in the town, therefore I'm an individual in the town, should I have to be a member? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I would say no. The town would be a member and entitled to the benefits of being a member, and I guess all the town employees, but you'd have to check too with the chamber, because I think they have different rates for the number of employees that you have, so I'm not sure what the rate would be for the town. It would be more than just the rate that probably anyone here at the table pays, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're right. I know when I was involved with the chamber, with the board, there's a sliding scale. I mean, my membership is one person in the business, and it's probably the same as Pam's, $97.50 a year. You know what I mean? That's the membership. But if you've got numbers of employees, now we've got 60 employees, so we would be on the high-end scale. I really would like to know how much this is going to cost us. I can hear Danny McIsaac, who's not here but in spirit, screaming in my ear here at this point. How much is it going to cost? I'm not really sold on it. I mean, unless I see a potential for us, I don't really see the benefit, since every one of us sitting around the table are affiliated somehow as members, you know. And I'm just wondering if this is going to cost $500 or $600. Could we not maybe invest the money more wisely elsewhere? But I'm just curious as to, I'm 50-50.
Yeah, so we need to figure out how much it is, first of all. I called the towns, Halifax, Truro, Kemptville, New Minas, Bridgewater, everybody's a member of their chamber. Some of them are doing it on principle. It's to support. I don't think it matters if any of us are individual members. We're saying that the town is a member. Argyle's a member. Is the municipality of Yarmouth? So, you know, they're all members. And when I checked throughout the province, Seems like everybody is a member of their chamber. And it's a good, at the basic level, it's a great supportive move to make on, on behalf of the town, that we're there, we support, the business community, we're part of it. So Natalie, have you got any thoughts on that?
No, I think the Chamber of Commerce, from Economic Development, we work in partnership with them to support them in their role as the face of the business community. So anything that we can do to show that in any way, I think would be seen as a positive.
Yeah. And we can also refer it to budget and figure out what it is, because we're not really handing out money this year, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really against it myself. I'm just curious more than anything, and I think Pam, we're thinking on the same idea. I'd like to make a motion that we refer the request to budget deliberations for the 2016-17 fiscal year.
Good. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. We are at debt affordability model, CAO.
Your Worship, we have well, I'll give a little background, and then I'll tell you what the opportunity is. The background is that the Municipal Finance Corporation developed what they call a debt affordability model. Municipal Finance Corporation is in the business of arranging capital financing for municipalities, and so that is their purpose. But it is a model that also looks at your financial viability overall, looking out into the future 10 years or so. The town, we completed that model ourselves. Gosh, it's got to be 9 or 10 years ago. The town did, and we presented it to council of the day, and it was I think it was a very worthwhile exercise. Service Nova Scotia, Department of Municipal Affairs and our regional advisor have offered to assist us in completing the debt affordability model. They've also offered it to our neighboring municipalities, and I think we all agree that that looking out into the future in terms of financial viability is a worthwhile exercise. And certainly, if we all do it, then it gives us something to talk about in terms of some level of comparison and comparing and contrasting with one another. So what I'm looking for, and what Department of Municipal Affairs would like, is if you would like us to proceed with that, a motion to request that Municipal Affairs help assist us with completing the debt affordability model. And I do, just so it's crystal clear, I do support that and would recommend it.
Good. Deputy?
I'll move a motion based on what's presented to us on our agenda.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Agricultural Society, CAO. Maybe I don't have this.
No, I don't know. Yep. Okay. So, council this year has approved of obviously our grants to community organizations, and in that process, we approved 2 operating grants to organizations that actually are indebted to the town or one of our corporations, one of our partnership corporations. The 2 that I'm speaking of are obviously the Agricultural Society, but the other is the Four Corridors Housing Co-op. And so the motion I'd like you to consider would be applicable to both of them, but it would be to allow us to pay the grant directly, in one case to the Mariner Center, in the other case I believe it's the water utility, to pay the grant directly so that the value is applied to their accounts that are in arrears. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And if you're in agreement with this in principle, then we will go forward and develop a policy so that we don't have to come back in the future with every single case, but we would just generally apply the policy when you approve the grants.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make that motion to recommend that council direct staff to apply the grant to the Yarmouth County Agricultural Society against the outstanding debt to the Mariners Centre. That's presented by the CAO. Is that what you're looking for? And to? I did not hear what you said.
Four corners, Four Corners
And
housing
Four Corners
to the water utility.
to the water utility. Thank you.
Ken's happy. Okay, so moved. Can we have a seconder? Seconded. Moved and seconded. Discussion? I can read you like a book. I'm sorry. You're
Just
go
wondering,
ahead.
how much that was set aside for it and how much they owe. I don't need to know the pricing, but does it work out to being paid off, or will they still owe? Okay, thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Request for decision accessible playground renovation. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so council at a earlier meeting, I believe it was in April, had received a report from our parks supervisor concerning accessible playgrounds, and had directed staff to move forward with it. The motion was that the report on playground equipment for children with disabilities be referred to the Recreation Director for his review and recommendations as to next steps. The Recreation Director went ahead and he liked the report, and he went ahead and applied for some assistance. The assistance looks very good, very promising. So the question is, the balance of the project would require $27,000, $27,500, and I'm recommending that we take that money from our Parks and Open Space Reserve and apply it to this project. So the Parks and Open Space Reserve balance is about $118,000, and so this would bring us to just under $100,000 in that reserve.
Okay, so you want to tell us where that comes from? Oh, you just said that. Sorry. Okay. Councillor Dennis?
Recommend that to council, right? I'd like to recommend that council approve proceeding with the accessible playground improvements to Beacon Park and Yarmouth South Playground, drawing $27,600 from Parks and Open Space Reserves.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Did you, Madeline?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah, go
Your
ahead.
Worship, thank you. When would this begin? When would the work begin? When will we be paying it?
The actual work beginning depends on the approval of the balance of the funding, which again looks very favorable. Then we do a procurement process, right? So there's walkways. So we'd begin work on it right away. When would it be complete? It needs to be completed by next summer.
By next summer. Thank you.
Good. All right, call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Decision transit vehicle. Why do we only, okay. Oh, Caroline. Sorry.
Okay, so in June, we issued a request for proposals to interested parties. We are looking to purchase one 14-passenger low-floor accessible bus for the new transit system that'll be coming in November. We received 4 proposals. We marked them based on suitability of the equipment, expected delivery time, and fees. Based on this criteria, my recommendation would be that council go with Crestline's proposal for a Spirit Mobility bus. This was the superior proposal based on the criteria that was set forth in the request for proposal. It got a score of 81 out of 100. Crestline's proposal for the Spirit Mobility after total cost after tax is $157,000. And they have an expected delivery date of 145 days after an order is placed. So the Transit Committee has met and discussed, and they agree with my recommendation, and that is what we're bringing forth to Council at this time.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'd like to note for the record, if I could, at the request, Councillor McIsaac has worked very hard on this along with the committee, and he regrets he cannot be here today, but I'd like it reflected in the minutes, if at all possible, that he's very much in support of the Crestline application, if at all possible. And given that, I would like to make a motion that the town of Yarmouth purchase the new vehicle from Crestline for their, with the Spirit of Mobility vehicle for the total amount of $157,293.41 after tax, with the understanding of delivery date of 145 days.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes?
I will second that, but I do have a question
Go ahead.
through you to our planner. No, I'm sorry, to our Mr. Barron. What amount did we budget for this bus in the first place, please? I don't remember. It was a lot of numbers ago.
I think it was 200,000.
Do I have to turn my light off?
No?
No?
Yeah, the budget was $200,000, and what we're hoping to do, once we've identified the main bus, is the balance of that isn't surplus. The balance of that will be used for some technology we need on board the bus.
For some technology?
Technology we need on board the bus, and either through this fund or additional funds in the future, we'll be looking for a used backup bus.
Great. Thank you.
Good? Yep, question being called? No? Go ahead, Sandy.
I just have a couple of questions on the bus, if that's okay. Accessibility, of course, is one of the main issues. Is the bus going to be accessible for walkers, strollers, wheelchairs, and scooters?
Yes, one of the features that we really liked about this bus was that it has a ramp and it's low floor, so it's very easy to get on and off. It doesn't take a lot of time to put down the ramp for passengers to get on and off.
Is that an electric ramp?
Yes.
Okay. And another question was, is it also going to have a bike rack on it?
It's a good question. I don't know if it was still reference to the bike rack. But if that's something the council is interested in pursuing a purchase after.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to add to kind of flesh that with Councillor Dennis, the vehicle, one of the strong points of the vehicle is that the seats are face forwarding, unlike side forwarding. So when you do enter the new bus, you'll be coming in through a really nice ramp that is electronic that works inside. But it's the kind of design of that bus, the driver has better access, the clients have better access to the driver. And that was a plus thing. And the idea of a bike rack, I remember was discussed about 3 years ago, but I think that's been lost in the shuffle, and we've never really discussed it since. But that is something that's fairly easy to procure, and they usually go on the front or on the rear of the bus, depending. I think Halifax Transit has some on the front. And they're just basically something that almost can be fabricated for the vehicle. But that's something definitely would go back to the committee too. It was a very excellent point. Thank you.
Good? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Yep.
I just have one more question. Can we get a picture or some information on the bus that we're going to be getting?
Absolutely. I have a binder with colored copies upstairs, so I'll go grab it
Okay.
when we're done the next item.
Great.
So you can have it.
Oh, and another question. The seating, like the options when wheelchairs go in, is it going to be a locking system or a seat belt system? Or is it going to be a seat belt around the actual chair?
It's a lock-in system.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Sorry, I can never see your
No,
light.
that's fine. So immediately following the committee of the whole this afternoon, we're going to ask you to ratify that decision because we want to get the bus ordered, the order placed because of the delivery time.
Good, remind me.
Yep.
Okay. All right, pianos downtown. So, we all have this, we have your recommendation here. I'm just gonna say this, I don't think, it says, to ask Waterfront, but I don't think Waterfront needs to do it. I think it's a community-led, and that, the reason I put it on was just to make sure that council's okay with it. I mean, if we're gonna have this type of thing in downtown or on the waterfront, that, you know, that we're okay with it. But basically, our place, if it's run by a group of citizens, would just be to ensure that they have the proper information. You know, do they need to get a permit for the sidewalk and those types of things? Because honestly, there's a group of individuals that are ready to take this on, everything from providing the piano to moving the pianos to tuning them. You know, all those pieces are in place, and it really, I mean, I'm just of the belief that it needs to just be a community-led, hands-off for us.
And I think that's kind of was the thought behind these initiatives to begin
Yeah,
with.
exactly.
The waterfront development, it was just a recommendation because
Yeah.
that's how it's run in Halifax. But it actually, this program in Halifax started by a couple planning students, and I think it was almost a social experiment to
Yeah.
see if you just
Yeah.
didn't regulate something and you put it out there, if the community would own it and take care of it. And it, from my understanding and my research in the last few days, is it was extremely successful. People love it. There's been no issues with the program whatsoever. They didn't take any kind of initiative to organize, you know, covering the pianos or putting them away or maintaining them. The community's just done that on their own and taken that initiative. So it's really, it's kind of a trust exercise. It's worked out very well. So I think it's a very cool idea.
Yeah. Troro's done it.
Yeah.
Moncton's doing it, like and then I get all good report, because I made the phone calls too. I just didn't want people to put pianos on the sidewalk, and then there's always the opportunity for vandalism. I think we know that here better than anybody. But all the reports were excellent. Like, everybody was excited. They looked after them. So it was really a good social experiment. I think they did really well. We got like Councillor Landro.
Yeah, it's a curious thing. My question is to our solicitor. So we have a piano that a group is providing. So my understanding, according to the mayor, it's not going to cost us any money. I think it's wonderful, and let the public do it. So the piano was put on a street, and a couple of kids grabbed the piano and rammed it through a plate glass window of a store. Are we liable as a town, or is the group liable as a town? Because the piano was placed on a public street with our permission. I'm just trying to, or on the other exchange, the piano was pushed onto the street and the car hits it and somebody's paralyzed for the rest of their life. I don't want to put water on this, but I'm just curious where we are from a liability point of view, where we're agreeing to have it put in a public place. We can't naturally stop a private person from putting a piano on their lawn for people to play or for them to put it on their property. But where it goes onto public property, I'm just wondering, doesn't the ante change a little bit there?
I don't think the town, it's a good question, but I don't think the town would be liable. I mean, the town has things that are on town property that could be used as a weapon. I guess almost anything could be used as a weapon. So I don't think the town would be liable in that case. And I mean, the town certainly has liability insurance, so I don't think that would be or should be an impediment, although I don't know if it should be put in the sidewalk necessarily as opposed to down on the waterfront or something
Or
like
Alma
that.
Square, something like Alma Square or something like that, right?
Or the
where it's-
park or something as opposed to right on the street, yeah.
Did you want to?
Just a second one. I noticed the original motion was to go to the Waterfront Development Corporation. And the way I was reading that, it was going to go along the waterfront, seemed to be the target for these. So I'm relatively, I really think there needs to be personally a liaison of some kind with this group, you know, what they're doing kind of a thing. If not to give them credibility, but to give us some input as well, because I'm thinking, but I'm curious what Jim's thoughts are on that, because I'm kind of hearing that maybe the waterfront development would not be involved, and I don't know whether, Jim, if your group is comfortable with that, or you don't want to be involved, or whatever, because we haven't moved any motions yet, so it's still sitting there. So actually, if it's not going to be waterfront development, we don't need a motion anyway.
No, okay, go ahead, CAO.
Yeah, so our Waterfront Development Corporation has a different mandate or different scope than Halifax. Our group deals with capital projects. And where this is more of an operational issue, I wouldn't see it necessarily being a fit there. And they also don't have a staff resource at this time. Where I looked at it is the streets and sidewalk bylaw. If we're looking at putting it in the street, or sorry, on the sidewalk, I would think that the sites where these pianos would be located would just have to be vetted with the town engineer to ensure that they're not blocking views of crosswalks or intersections, that sort of thing, and not impeding passage of people on sidewalks. I think we have a standard in our bylaw of 4 or 5 feet of passable width on the sidewalk. So as long as the locations were run by Dave Ernst for those purposes, that would I think satisfy those sorts of concerns. If council had, you know, what we're really looking for here is, this is a citizen initiative, and if they just went ahead and did it, it would be very challenging for staff, because without any indication from council whether you want it to happen or not, we would be looking at our bylaws and saying, well, we don't actually have anything in there about pianos on sidewalks. So we're really looking for direction, for your direction. If you want it to proceed, give us some kind of guidelines on the sidewalks with the town engineer's approval, or in parks and other open spaces, and you know, we can communicate that through her worship or anyone else to the group, and we'll monitor it, of course.
So I can certainly, I say liaise with the group, but just maybe the motion is just that council agrees that the engineer is the person that they have to go through. I mean, we don't need to do this, I don't think. Yeah, approval of locations through operational services. Okay, Councillor Dawes, your light's been on for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, many of my questions have already been asked and also answered. Thank you. I did not to dwell or concentrate on negatives, but I also had immediate thoughts of questions of legalities and liabilities. But that, I would say, would be something that let's say our bylaws and the individual or the individual groups who are initiating that would be between the two of them. Am I correct in assuming that? First of all, the group or the individual would have to come and say, what is required, where can I go? Can I do this in Alma Square, or in Frost Park? Because council itself has nothing to do with this. We will enjoy it, and we will also support it.
Well,
that's the way I understand
well,
it.
that's what we're really looking for, is will you enjoy it and will you support it? Because it's one of those things that if somebody puts a piano on the sidewalk,
well,
we don't have really much in terms of clear authority. Well, it's our property, I guess, but you know, we wouldn't want to go chase them off if council thought it was a really good idea. We just need to make sure that they're appropriately located so that people can still use the sidewalk and still be seen on intersections and corners and crosswalks and so on, and away from fire hydrants. Like, there's a few considerations. But if council is generally going to enjoy this, then we'll enjoy it with you.
well, I will go out on a way out on a limb here, make assumptions. I think council will enjoy it, but will everyone else enjoy it as much as council would? Are we going to get more emails? How many are we
Yes,
going to
we
get
will-
per day? That's
we
the
will get a couple-
question.
You're right. We'll get a couple emails, and if a couple this is just my thinking.
Yes.
If a couple emails stop us from downtown music or allowing the community to step up and freely, you know, there is no music. Where's the music? Where's the music? That's a question. Okay, we need to make a decision on that.
Yes,
Okay.
I went down, I was downtown after she sent the email. I was in town, and I did hear it in between the boom booms of
Okay. So
of
there
what
was a
coming up
technical
cars.
there was a technical problem. That's what happened there. Yeah. It was just
Well,
a-
that's good to share.
Yeah.
That's good you brought it up.
Problem. But,
All right, so I would say, I'm not speaking for anyone else but myself, it's an admirable and it's also a successful initiative that, yes, it does exist elsewhere. If people want to take their own pianos and paint them, or they want to play on them, offer them to anyone else during the summer months, be it in Frost Park or, I don't know, Alma Square. I'm all for it, as long as the buck stops just before the doors of council chambers. It's there for the town and for citizens to enjoy.
so, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is all quite interesting, but there's a lot of variables that have to be, let's put it this way, there's a lot more strings attached to this than to a starving spider, I'm seeing. So what I'd like to do is make a motion that staff be directed to enter into discussions with those groups or individuals interested in setting up a public piano project within the town of Yarmouth, with the intent of bringing such a project to fruition, given the parameters of safety, accessibility, and legality.
Does that make it ours?
No.
We don't want it to be ours.
Well, no, we're not saying it's ours. What we're doing is staff is going to start discussing. The motion is for staff to discuss with them to make sure that A, it's in a safe place, B, that the engineer is aware, but I'm not limiting who's going to be involved. It's up to the CAO. It'll be the engineer, or it could be whatever.
Okay.
But somebody from town hall is going to sit down with this group or these individuals, whoever they are, and say, okay, great idea, council's very much in supportive of it, but A, we're not going to spend any money, and B, you've got to be within certain safety concerns, legal concerns, and there are issues. Here are the concerns that we have, and as long as they can meet those parameters, that's fine. We're just being good stewards in the safety of our citizens.
Good. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you again, Your Worship. I would, actually, I would like to hear feedback and insight from our CAO and also from our town planner. How do you see this coming together, culminating? Are you in agreement with that?
Go ahead,
With
Caroline.
this motion?
This is so easy.
I've gone back and forth on this because I do agree with Ken that there could be some issues, and sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of regulation behind things. But in talking to the people who have done these programs, it's really been by the seat of their pants, no regulations, let's just try something, and it worked really well, and let's not overthink it. So
We just micromanage everything.
I'm torn. The reason I recommended the Waterfront Corporation was more because I was thinking that there'd be less issues if pianos were on the waterfront opposed to on sidewalks. I haven't spoken to Dave Ernst about this yet. My guess is he would most likely like to recommend locations that would be safe and where they should be on sidewalks. And from a planning perspective, it's not something we would regulate. It's not on private property. It's not a particular use. So,
But we might just say, for example, we might encourage Alma Square or the park here or something like that, so that it's not on the sidewalk, as in smack dab on the sidewalk, which, in front of the courthouse, like, yeah. Well, just so that they wouldn't, people would be able to walk by, right? But, yeah. Okay, deputy, go ahead.
I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill.
I completely
So
agree.
we have received information here. It's been, I think, a half-decent discussion. For God's sakes, people, let's let the group do it. No hassle, no nothing. We have people on the sidewalk who play guitars with their case open for coin. We have people who sing in Frost Park for free. We have people who sell stuff on Saturday mornings in Elma Square, no charge. We don't charge them anything, and it's a way to do it. So let's just do it, and let's get it over with.
Yeah. CAO? What's your thoughts there, CAO? Go ahead.
Are we
Sandy.
allowed buskers? I mean, we're allowed buskers. Are they allowed to have their case open to get money? Do we have bylaw against it? I don't think we do.
Caroline?
I went through a couple of our bylaws and I couldn't find anything that would explicitly prohibit
Super.
this to
So
happen.
then now we can have buskers.
Yes.
All right, that's good.
That would be, buskers would be for profit. That may go through the vendor's bylaw, potentially. But just public playing a public piano, I don't have very many concerns about that.
Well, I think it's a great initiative, and the more lively we can make our town, I think the better we are for it.
Okay. So we had a motion, but it wasn't seconded, so what, CAO, can you help us here? Can we make this simple? Or not simple, it doesn't matter, whatever way council wants to go, but go ahead.
Oh, I think I've got everything I need from this discussion. No, seriously, I've got a sense that there's support here, but there is some concern about locations being carefully selected, and the issues have been identified. So I think we can move from there, and we will meet with these people if they can identify themselves.
I'll
and
identify them.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll look after it.
good. Counselor, yeah, John Lennon.
So I'm a little puzzled because the motion was for staff to meet with this group to discuss these issues, but we're not going to pass the motion because we want them to go and do it anyway, according to the deputy mayor. And the CAO says he has clear direction on what's going on. Well, I am totally confused. And I may be having a senior moment here or not, I'm not sure.
I just don't think the motion didn't get seconded.
Well, no, but my point is at one point we're asking for direction, second point suggestions made, third that staff discuss it, but now we don't want staff to discuss it because we want them to do their thing, but now staff's going to discuss it. That's kind of the way the ping pong has been going here. So I just want to be sure, because Deputy Mayor made it clear, he was very emphatic, let's just do it. So therefore, if we're going to do it, I don't think we should be involved at all. Just let them go do it. That's what he said, basically. So there shouldn't be any staff discussion whatsoever, and I can live with that. That's fine. As long as, you know, if that's the intent, that means we're totally, and I'm going to Greg now on this one, that means if we do it and we don't touch it, we stay completely clear of it, that means we're liability and all that issues and safety concerns are not our concerns. That falls on the shoulders of those volunteers who are putting those pianos wherever they're going to put them. That's the way I understand it.
But they still need to discuss with the engineer.
I think if I could just interject.
Yeah,
if
please.
the town is going to permit pianos to be on public property, town property, then the town should at the very least have a policy approving it
Okay.
and setting out some guidelines for it to take place.
Okay.
So if something comes back to, something
Bites in
should
the
come back to
ass.
council with some specific guidelines, I think, or recommendations, and that should be discussed by council.
Okay. I have a light on.
I've never seen a bunch
I have a
of
light
people
on.
there.
I have a light on.
No, I
Seriously.
agree. It should, as I understand it, I thought it was the staff was gonna come back and make recommendations, but council ultimately, to answer Councillor Langer's point, I think at some point it's got to come back to council, and there's got to be
Yes.
a discussion and
Absolutely.
and a policy passed.
I would see that,
And a
it's much
policy.
like, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, you're putting property, a piano, or putting a piano on town property.
Right.
And you're gonna let people use it, and there's different considerations about that. So I think rather than just, because if it's not authorized by council, then if there's something on town property, it's gotta be authorized by somebody. So it's either, unless Jeff wants to go on the, wants to do it, because he's the only other person that could potentially authorize it,
Has the
so.
light on.
I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I second Councillor, who are you? His motion.
Okay. Yep, go ahead, Deputy.
Turn my damn light on.
Sorry. I had to go in order.
I know. I'm going to vote against the motion, and we need to just let the group that wants to do it. And then if there's a challenge, we'll deal with the challenge. And as far as I know, Ken, it's going to go up in, it could go up in Alma Square. I know there's 2 or 3 people that are interested in working it, and so let's just friggin' do it.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Call for the question. Okay, I don't know what the motion was. Linda? Good understanding. They're going to do that anyway. They have to come in and ask what the questions are. We just don't have to make it formal so we don't get tagged with it. But, okay, so question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Nay? Defeated. Staff doesn't have to discuss. They're going to come in anyway. Well, they don't have to, but that works. That really works. That's right. Yeah, let's, oh my goodness. Okay, correspondence for action. Hullabaloo 2015 request for support. Are you good?
Yes.
You good? Okay.
Chat.
All right. So there's a letter here from the Hullabaloo looking for, and I had a donation, okay? So we want to replace and receive on file. Okay? Moved, seconded. Okay. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Okay. Who's in favor? To place on file. Who's, okay, 4-2. Oh, I thought you had to lay on. Okay, Monarchist League of Canada. So this is the Queen being I think it's September 9th, and they're just looking for a little bit of a ceremony for the Queen. I read the whole thing. It should be relatively easy to pull together. So where do we want to go with this? Go ahead.
Well, we have a very active, oh, I've got to be so careful. No, the IODE, I think, but they still don't, I got to be, because I don't go with the old acronym now. There's a new one there, so I'm not sure what it is. I get burned the last time when I made reference to it. Could we maybe refer this to the Yarmouth IODE for their involvement? Because the last time we did, we got just looking at a very impressive letter from Buckingham Palace sitting right out there in the hallway that they generously looked after, and maybe just refer it to them and let them go play with it, because you know, I think that'd be the best thing if they want to take it on, because they are pretty well as close to the Monarchist League as you're going to get. and they're very supportive of this thing. So I'd make that a motion that this be referred to the Yarmouth IODE for their consideration.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Yarmouth Facade Society street signage. CAO?
Your Worship, it's a letter from the Facade Society, and I get the gist of it is that they would suggest that the street signs within the downtown core, we might consider a more attractive design than the standard green blade sign, green and white blade sign, and they reference the Collins Heritage District, which does have more attractive, more stylish street signs, and so that's their recommendation.
That would probably go to budget too. Councillor Lanzo, you're on.
Besides, I don't like that word anonymously spelt wrong, but that's a teacher coming out of me there. I read this. It's a great idea, but I really, again, I think people know my view on this one. I can't see one part of town being any different from another part of town. And I would make a motion to be referred to budget for consideration, but my concern is I think if we're going to do signage, it should be everywhere, because Yarmouth South and Milton is just as deserving as the downtown core.
Yep. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I agree. First of all, did you say anonymously? Did you say?
No, it's just...
It's supposed to be unanimously. Also, yes, you are correct. Now, sorry to deviate. I agree. I had other questions as soon as I read this. What really are we asked to do? Is it for this year? Is it who's going to look into the design or how these street signs are going to look? I really don't know what we're being asked, and if we pass this on, that's fine. I agree with it.
So
now, I also agree that, yes, our street signs all across town. Yeah, but it's also a question of timing and affordability also.
Yeah. So he's not saying, he didn't by any means say just downtown. He says phased-in project commencing with the downtown core. So you just start in the center and work outwards, and, you know, it would be good. But I'm in agreement with referring it to budget.
Yes.
And I also agree that the signs need to be changed. I mean, it would look so nice.
Now there is
that Collins Street district looks. The signs are great in the Heritage District. Yeah. Were you going to say something?
There is a signage committee. There you are.
Yeah.
You're still on it? The signage committee? Natalie? Which signage committee? The signage committee. Pardon me? Yes, I thought so. That's what, about 1 or 2 years old now?
This is 10, sorry?
That's about 1 or 2 years old now?
Right, so I think this is to the street signage. And
Yes, but would that also come under, would that fit under the umbrella or the mushroom of the signage, that signage committee?
my suggestion is when the
Would you come forward, please?
Thank you. You might have to take, one of them doesn't work. There's not on.
My recommendation is when the design proposal comes forward for the place branding signage for the town, that you can take a look at that and see how it could be interpreted into street signage. So in Lunenburg, in their main downtown core, they actually changed theirs to black with white historical lettering. It didn't look really good, sorry. I know we're being taped right now. But yeah, I would suggest for your consideration when that design proposal comes forward, if you'd like to look at that and see whether or not that could give any inspiration, then that might be a good place to start. Very expensive, though.
Yeah. Good, thanks, Nat. So the motion's on the floor to refer to budget. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Municipality of Digby, Regional Tourism Initiative. CAL, do you want to, I think this is taken care of by YASTA, which is appropriate. Go ahead.
Your worship, there was a request from the District of Digby to do a regional project under tourism. It was forwarded to the manager of YASTA, who has provided a response here in your package. I believe what he is saying is that it is not within the YASTA budget for this year. It would be worthwhile, in Neil's opinion. And if the partners funded it in the 16-17 budget, then he was supportive, as I read his letter. But I think it should be perhaps referred back to YASTA because there are 3 municipalities. This response came to us. I'm not sure that it went to the others. And perhaps YASTA should make a decision or give a recommendation to all the partners, all the 3 partners in YASTA, and perhaps fund it and participate in it through YASTA rather than through the 3 councils.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is a great idea, but it's one of those ideas that could be either reasonable or very expensive, depending on how the bus goes down the road. We actually have 2.5 members in YASDA, because our Clare partners are not full funders of YASDA. Yet Clare is one of Clare and Argyle, in actuality, are the ones that basically will get the major benefit with the Dark Sky initiative. If you look at the website, it's their area that's primarily supportive. Overall, I'm very supportive of this whole idea of a kiosk, and I'm very supportive of the concept. However, I am concerned, we're going to be discussing the Monton thing in a minute, referring to that. If we are going to be participating, I think we should be equitably participating. In other words, it should not be coming out of YASDA. It should be seen as a project of YASDA, with YASDA coming to us as partners and saying, okay, if we're going to do this, it's going to cost you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a piece, versus coming out of the budget pot of YASDA, which really is not a balanced budget pot, because the municipality district of Yarmouth and us, we're the major shareholders there in dollars, if I'm not mistaken. Clare's contribution is not as significant as ours to YASDA. Now, I can be corrected on that. I just want to make sure that it's an equitable sharing, that's all, from not only us, but every municipal unit.
So, yeah, so the funding formula for YASTA, there are three municipal partners now. Clare opted out of YASTA. So we have 3 municipalities that participate equally, and it is Yarmouth County. And the Room Levy Group has become a 4th partner, so there are 4 funding partners. Clare does participate, I believe, and Sandy could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe they participate in some projects. And in this project, this has gone out to a wide range of municipalities directly. But my recommendation is that because YASTA represents us on the tourism stuff, that we put it back to them for consideration in next year's budget. And if they believe it is worthwhile and if they can work out the terms and conditions that is satisfactory, they would include in their request for next year sufficient funds to cover it.
Okay, so what are we looking for, a motion? Okay, so, go ahead.
Okay, hearing that, I'd like to make a motion that we refer the request that was started by the District of Digby with regard to the kiosk project on Halifax waterfront back to YASDA for consideration in their 2016-2017 budget and their further recommendation to us as partners.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Questions being called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Bontemps request for presentation. Go ahead, CAO.
Your Worship, this is a request for to make a presentation, as is our policy, that if a group wants to make a presentation, they indicate what the issue is they wish for you to make a decision on. I have advised through the CAO in Argyle that our grant funds for this year are depleted, so that if there was to be a presentation, I'm not sure that immediately would be necessarily of benefit, but perhaps as we get closer to next year and budget consideration, grant consideration, it might be appropriate. But that was just my communication to him. It's obviously your decision.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm in favor of, actually, I'd be very interested in listening to them if they came in to make a presentation. So I would be in favor, if you need a motion, I would make a motion to invite them to come to, whether now or later, whatever, to come make a presentation to council. Thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded. Councillor Lanchel?
Well, in looking at this, no problem with the motion, but I don't know whether anybody's chance to look at it. The intent of this is to put a project in place, but the project must be completed by March 31st, 2016 for the share. They're looking for sharing dollars with the province. So if we're going to put it in our next year's budget, it'll be too late. Bottom line, because the deadline they're looking for, they're going to go after the tourism development investment funding. It's now available online. I've looked at their site, and there's 2 projects they're looking at: the competitive edge and first impression. So I believe, but now have they applied, because the deadline was April 15th, 2015. So this is where I'm a little concerned about it. Have they put an application in and they're looking for us to be giving them matching dollars in the hopes that they will get funding approval? I'm a little fuzzed on that.
Councillor Dennis?
I was just reading the part where it says, while ideally the funds could be committed in the fiscal year, we would be open for consideration of support in 2016-17 fiscal year. We are aware of the potential fiscal challenges our request causes for the current year.
Good. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's what I put my...
Okay. So we have a motion, was it seconded? Yes. To invite them in to present, okay? Yeah, so all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Wow. Yeah, okay. Wow. Previously distributed, there were no additions. And we have, can we go into sorry, wait 1 second. We're gonna have we need to go into a council meeting for 2 items. First of all, we have this one, the transit vehicle, or do we look after that? Oh, yeah, okay. And there was another item. Accessible playground. Yeah. 2, accessible playground. Okay. Did somebody have, you good? Yeah. Okay, so a motion to adjourn here. Okay. And we're in a council meeting now, so I'll call the meeting to order. Record of attendance, Linda. Declarations of conflict of interest. Approval of agenda. So I've added just to this single one. So we have the transit vehicle and we have the accessibility playground. Approval of agenda. Deputy. Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, business. Transit vehicle. So we are looking for council to approve the motion recommendation from the committee of the whole with regard to the transit vehicle. Phil, were you here? We did. Go ahead. I don't know when you came in.
I'll make a recommendation. I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation from the committee of the whole the purchase of a transit vehicle.
Good.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. An accessible playground. So we're looking, so the motion is to accept the recommendation from council with regard to the accessible playground. Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Motion to adjourn, no? Oh, wait a minute, we have one in camera. Yep.
Put it right here. Everybody bought. What time is it tomorrow?
I don't know.
just remembered, I need the town seal for a deed I just had them sign.
Oh, Linda? Oh, I think we're past working hours, aren't we? Are we past working hours right now?
Always past working hours.
Oh, still another 4 minutes and counting. I'm going to send you an email, see how, if you can schedule me in.
Okay, I'm gonna go get you the seal first. Okay, great.
Okay, Jody's here. I got 30 something. I'm gonna get some autographs from him today.
Oh, so it's you and Jerry and Jeff?
Yeah, I don't think Jerry's wrote the check yet, but
No.
we might have to double it up. I don't think it makes any difference. They know we're not gonna stick them.
Oh, no,
Right.
she didn't write me anything under,
They know we're not gonna stick them. Plus, the other thing is, after we screwed them over for the hullabaloo today for no money for the, I voted no.